I'd like to call the Monday, March 23rd, 2020 remote school board meeting to order. Lisa, please take the roll.
Inspector Ehrman.
Here.
Gotcha.
Here.
Inspector Alton.
Here.
Inspector Diaz.
Here.
Inspector Bjorklund.
Here.
Inspector Walker.
Here.
Inspector Laliberty.
Here.
Chair McClellan.
Here.
We have a quorum of 7 present.
Thank you. I'd like to start by reading a prepared statement. I want to start by thanking our staff for all of their hard work and countless hours they're putting in to put systems and structures in place to support our students, family, and staff during this difficult time. I feel confident in speaking for all our school board members that we are extremely grateful and proud to be part of this Packer community. I also want to thank you for your patience tonight as we try a new way of doing business. It may take a while to get used to, but we will get there. We have all of the fast-paced learning curve together, and I'm thankful we can do this alongside of each of you. Lastly, to meet statute requirements for a virtual meeting, we will be asking for a roll call tonight. All right, here we go. First item on the agenda this evening is the approval of tonight's agenda as well as minutes from our committee of the whole and regular business meetings of March 9th, 2020. Do I have a motion for their approval?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Lisa, we call the roll.
I will. Inspector Laliberty.
Yes.
Inspector Arend.
Yes.
Inspector Felton.
Yes.
Inspector Diaz.
Yes.
Inspector Bjorklund.
Yes.
Inspector Walker.
Yes.
Inspector McClellan.
Yes.
We have 7 yeas.
Motion carries. I'd like to invite Dr. Webb to provide a public listening session report from March 9th, 2020.
Thank you. So just on March 9th, we had our budget presentation here at the COW, and we shared updates at the regular meeting as well. We did have a teacher come in to just share concerns with our 2020-21 budget reductions. And we heard those, and that was our sole person that came to the board listening session. And that's the report for tonight on the listening session update.
Thanks, Dave. Next, Dr. Webb and his leadership team will provide us with a COVID-19 update.
We sure do. And Lisa's going to take a minute here and present and share the screen. And as she's getting set in that transition, I just want to take a minute to say how proud I am of our entire South St. Paul staff and our community and students. This has been a tough situation for everyone, and I'm proud of how our communities responded and how our schools are supporting our community. So let's share your screen for that PowerPoint now.
How do I get it over here so I can show, you know what I mean? How you, I just drag it.
It'll be just 1 second here and we'll share the PowerPoint screen with you. We're all learning together here.
That's for sure.
There it is. Okay, thank you.
So in response to the governor's proclamation and decrees regarding the COVID-19 response, we had a number of guidelines to follow here in our own school district. And if you want to scroll up to the very beginning, at least we're going to kind of take it from the top. It says we're about slide 6, and then we'll just back up a few. So it seems like a year ago, but it was just about a week ago, we got directed from the governor on actions that we needed to take as a school district. One of those was school closure March 18th through the 27th. We decided to close as a school district along with a handful of other metro school districts for the 16th and the 17th to make sure that we continue to protect our South St. Paul staff, students, and community. During the time, we are charged with 3 different things. And I'm wondering if you were able to get to the slide that highlights the 3 things that the governor charged us with. So number 1, during that 18th through 27th, we had to make sure that we were preparing for distance learning. And not just distance learning, but equitable, accessible distance learning. 2, we had to provide school-age care and emergency support, emergency childcare to our emergency personnel that are working in hospitals and clinics and the like, as well as even our own school staff. Third, and really one of the areas that's been hugely successful is providing free meals to students in our community. You'll get more data later, but last Friday, we provided 1,500 meals on just the 3rd day of this program to kids in our community. So let's keep moving forward, and we'll give you an around the horn look at our district. Here's again the summary of the 3 areas that were part of that executive order. We'll go next. I'm going to turn it over to Chad for a distance learning update.
Good evening, board members and community. This is Dr. Chad Schmidt, Director of Learning, and I've got about 4 slides to try to provide context for this distance learning plan that we've been building and creating in the district. And then I will pass it off to both school and program leaders to provide detailed information about how the planning is coming along in their schools and in their programs. So as distance learning came on, Lisa, I'm going to stay on the distance learning slide for just a second. Board members, it's important to know that the flex learning planning that started back in April and May of 2019 and the plan that you approved in August was really foundational and helpful for both our system and for our teachers in starting to think about what would learning look like in a digital or remote or online kind of setting. So that planning was foundational for us. Teachers did received some professional development and did some planning as school was getting going this school year around the flex learning plan, which then with the governor's, so now we'll go to the next slide. So the governor has said, here's what a distance learning plan is comprised of in Minnesota as we deal with this coronavirus pandemic. So what you see here is that students must have full access to appropriate educational materials and receive daily interaction with their licensed teachers. We also must make an effort to maintain educational continuity and ensure equity and equal access to all students. That means that students can participate in their learning equitably and have access to all relevant services and supports. And differentiated instruction and one-to-one support is provided for students who need it. So that is the guidance that the governor and the commissioner of education provided to school districts in Minnesota on Sunday, March, was it 16th, I think, or 4th? And so on Monday, March 16th, district leaders, so administrators, special services directors, the digital learning team, IB curriculum coordinators, MTSS leaders, peer coaches, EL leaders, we all gathered together and we said, if that's the guidance from the Department of Education, what does that mean in South St. Paul? And so we came to these common agreements. In a distance learning plan in South St. Paul, students will receive a daily message from a trusted adult. They will receive academic and social emotional content learning guidance. And they will receive feedback, specific actionable feedback on their learning 2 to 3 times per week. So that last one is about the interactivity of learning. It's not just us pushing out activities and learning opportunities for students to complete, but it's us being able to provide feedback to students as they continue their learning. Community members and board members might be curious, so what have we been doing to try to support teachers in basically creating a new model of education as we build this distance learning plan? So here's what's been going on for the last week plus, is the digital learning team and all of our learning department colleagues have been building a distance learning resources website for teachers. We've also been delivering live and then recorded professional learning tutorials. There have been daily teams for grade level teams, for specialist teams, and for subject area teams at the secondary, and individual support through email, phone, and web. So people on our professional learning support team have been responding to calls morning, noon, and night, and trying to make sure teachers have the tools and the resources they need to be successful in this new distance learning model. So with that as context, I'm going to ask for, I think Chuck is up next to provide some program-specific information from the secondary, and then we'll go through elementary, early learning, and basically all of our educational programs.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Dr. Schmidt. I am really excited to be able to tell you about the secondary plan for 6th through 12th grade, not only secondary students, but CLC. And one of the things I want to say is we were ahead of the curve. We were ahead of the game with the flex learning plan that you guys have said to move forward with. That allowed us to jump really into this crazy time with a plan of what we were going to do. As Chad had mentioned, we had sat down and really talked about the different things that we wanted to make this plan be and not be. And what it was, what we didn't want it to be is, even though we are socially distancing ourselves like we're supposed to, we do not want it to become social isolation. So not just a one-way curriculum in which people can go online and study whatever it is that they need to study. The big thing between the flex learning plan and the distance learning plan is the flex learning plan was designed to carry us for a couple of days, where we were out of school for a couple of days. The distance learning plan is really about introducing new curriculum to our students, making sure that they understand what that curriculum is, and then checking for understanding in a way that allowed us to continue to go back and forth. So what you'll notice is that in every lesson that we're designing, we have the idea of where we are preparing the students for what we're going to talk about. So sharing the goals for that lesson. We're previewing it with the lesson objective and the learning targets. We're preparing them, giving them either a video of the teacher teaching that they need to watch, or they are doing a podcast or reading a novel, and then they're actually engaging in that material. So in a variety of different ways. One of the things when we started to talk about what does distance learning look like for a secondary student in an MYP IB school, it's 8 subject areas, and we started talking about, do we have kids do 8 things a day? And that just seemed overwhelming. So we came up with a 2-day rotation for our students and our teachers. And so on a day 1, the language arts, science, design, art, and certain special ed teachers will push out their information starting at 7 a.m. And those will be the subject areas that our students are going to focus on day 1. They'll have so all information gets pushed out at 7 a.m. From noon to 2 o'clock, our teachers have office hours. So as kids are getting into it, they can actually reach out to the teachers because they will be available. And then at 2 o'clock, all of our students have due nows, which are beginning activities that they need to accomplish in order for us to take attendance. So on day 1, they'll sit down and they'll have a no longer than 90-minute lesson in language arts, science, design, arts, and special ed classes. And then on day 2, they rotate to math, individuals and societies, language acquisitions, and PE. And so we're balancing the course load of what our kids are carrying. So if we go to the next slide, Lisa, if you would. This is kind of what it would look like for our students. So up to 90 minutes in language arts, up to 90 minutes in science, business, arts. We are not advocating at all that our students have to follow a really strict daily schedule, because we know that our students are taking care of either siblings or potentially sick family members. And so really what we wanted to do is give them the flexibility to do these assignments when it works into their schedule. The only thing that they have to do is make sure that by 2 o'clock they've logged in and checked in. And then on the day 2, you can kind of get a look at if they as they're working through it, they can reach out to their individuals and societies teachers and math teachers. So what does it look for our teachers? If you'll go to the next slide for me, Lisa, please. What you'll see is on the day one where the teachers are pushing out the information, they push out the information, and then they are monitoring their email and Schoology account to see as students are working through the material to answer questions. But they'll have office hours from noon to 2, and then they'll take attendance. And what we're saying to our teachers is we're not advocating live lectures where students have to follow this daily a set schedule again. On day 2, and this is really what I think sets our program apart from the rest of the programs of the people that I've talked with, my colleagues in other districts and in other states, is this idea that on day 2, so on day 1, you've pushed the information out as a teacher. On day 2, it is your prep and check time. So it is your time to actually assess the student work, answer student questions, check in with students. In fact, we have a system that we're designing that if a student doesn't check in with you by 2 o'clock, that next day on prep and check, that's the first person that you reach out to. So let's pretend that Jeff McClellan doesn't sign into my class. I pushed out social studies. He doesn't log in at all on the day I push it out. Jeff McClellan is going to be the #1 person that I'm going to try to reach out to that next day during my prep and check time. So this is really about that stopping the social isolation and actually getting that feedback back from teachers right to our kids. There isn't a program that I've seen out there that actually models this, so I'm really excited about it. Again, it's our chance to check in with students, to promote that I see you, I know you, I care about you by reaching out to students, prep with upcoming lessons that they'll have to continue to do, and then collaborate with their team. I am really excited. We are really fortunate, I will tell you, in the state of Minnesota, in which the governor gave us a couple of weeks to figure out how to redesign education here in Minnesota to do a distance learning. My colleagues on the East Coast were not so lucky, and they are fumbling through things. And so I'm really excited about the plan that we have set up. Any questions?
Is there any questions for Chuck?
No. Looks great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck.
Very hard work, Chuck.
I'll be curious to hear how it turns out.
Yeah, I need to.
Let me tell you, we all are. In fact, I think our teachers
I'm
are chopping
sure.
on the bit to get that first lesson out to find out how
Yeah.
this works. So
Awesome.
Well, the kids might be energized by it. I mean, it's a different way to learn, and they have their own independent energies to get it done the way they need to get it done. I think it might energize them, at least for a while.
You just never know, do you?
No, you don't.
Right. So next up are elementary leaders, if you want to take it away.
Mike is up, or
Yep, Terry and Mike.
Terry, Mike?
Just a quick comment. I cannot hear Wendy when she speaks.
Oh, that's because I forgot to turn my microphone on.
Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
All right. This is Mike. Can I be heard okay?
Yep.
Yep.
All righty. So if we can go to the next slide. And I just want to first start with, like, this is an enormous undertaking, and staff have been all over it. And I think both sites would mirror a lot of what Chuck was saying around just being very proud for the effort people are putting in. I mean, we are taking a bunch of type A personalities that have a lot of control and autonomy, and we're sometimes asking them to do things the night before for this, because it's just so fluid and there's just so much going on with the federal and state level decision making. And I think even today, a lot of us were holding our breath about what was going to happen at 2. And if that was going to impact this hard work. So I don't want to understate the amount of energy staff have put in before going into some of the details here. So you can see at the elementary model, our students were supporting our morning meeting, our core instruction around PYP, literacy, math, and socio-emotional learning. We're also providing chunks of time that can be differentiated for students and include programming such as special ed, EL, intervention, And then we also have a model that supports the kids having access to specialists on a 5-day rotation still. So we're very excited to see that. And that model will include using Seesaw as our learning management system. And so we've been working really hard to make sure everyone has access to that. We're able then to provide what we call both asynchronous and synchronous experiences. And so what that is it's a fancy way to say that we have opportunities for deep learning, which we want to provide through pre-recorded items, through physical items, through things like Google Classroom, where kids can work at their own pace and within the context of what the family is able to offer. And then we also want to offer those direct connects for relationships, which are those synchronous pieces. And so that would be things like our morning meetings and calls from staff and check-ins via that. Obviously, that'll look a little different with a 5-year-old than it would like a 10th grader. And so we have planned for that as well. And if we want to jump to the next slide there. And while we want to provide a lot of flexibility, and we recognize that once we get going next week, that teachers will be spending about half their time planning week 2 and about half their time in support of week 1. We would offer a model for those families that want a lot of structure. But our plans also recognize that in order to have equity, we need to give lots of flexibilities to family about what gets done and by whom and when. And that's kind of the quick and dirty of it anyway.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Anybody questions for Mike?
No.
Okay.
I'm just really fascinated at how the specialists will carry out their classroom instruction. Because a lot of times, like for the music classes, they rely on group activities, and I'm just fascinated to see what activity it's going to take for that to happen for the kids.
Yeah, thanks, Patty. I would just maybe add to that those teachers have been working together, even cross-subject and specialists, and they have a consistent rotation by grade, and what they're focusing on are the standards in their content area and providing activities that are then modified. So for example, like we're not going to have the same volleyball unit that we would have in PE. And that's also representative of how we've worked with really all the staff to say, like, what are those really important standards and benchmarks we haven't hit yet? And how do we accommodate that under this model rather than trying to say, okay, we're going to force old curriculum into the model. Like we're going to focus on the standards and adapt our model to the standards instead of trying to force feed maybe exactly what it would have looked like in the classroom.
Yeah, I'm like I say, I'd love to have a follow-up and just see that firsthand. And again, honor the work that our staff is doing to make it happen.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mike?
I did have a question. This is Linda. My question is, you talked about type A and personalities, but I also think teachers are really creative. And even though I know that the specter of a pandemic, hangs over us all the time, but did they have fun with this? Was it challenging? Was it like, man, you threw down the gauntlet, let's get to it, and who can rise up and think of the best idea?
I saw a lot more of the rising up to the best idea than anything else. And I know both buildings have had quite a few check-ins via the same Google Meets model, whether it's all staff or individual teams. And the stuff that's going on in the chats and the links they're sending forward are just amazing. And what I've noticed, at least at Lincoln Center, is like a whole different level of vertical communication. And so what you're seeing is, like, today we had the 5th grade team create a PowerPoint for their kids that really introduced distance learning as an activity. And then that was something that other grade levels immediately jumped on and said, oh, thank you, we can make it work this way for, 1st grade. So we actually, I know it's weird, but this model has forced a different level of collaboration. And it's interesting because all of us want to connect with each other. So even when people are coming to the building, it's so hard You know, like you realize like that 6-foot boundary and how like we would never really observe that and how often we are with each other. It's just, it's very surreal. Like it's very difficult to manage, but like we work with rock stars and then, you know, they find a way to get it done that's way better than we ever would have dreamed of sitting, you know, in an office or a meeting, you know, the week before.
I love that. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mike?
Thanks for your leadership, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for all the support.
Dave,
Jeff, this is Chad.
is Terry up next?
Interrupt here for a second. This is Chad Schmidt. Yeah, I just want to say part of what you just saw was the collaboration that's going on between the two buildings. So Mike spoke on behalf of both Terry and himself because they are in constant communication with each other and developing similar kinds of guidelines and similar kinds of plans. So it won't look exactly the same at Lincoln and Kaposia, but the parameters are the same and they're pushing out support for their educators and their students in very similar ways.
Hey, Jeff, this is Terry. I just wanted to chime in here. So I didn't want to be, and Mike and I have worked extremely collaboratively on this. I'm just in awe. I forget who said it, maybe Linda, about the level of creativity and collaboration. There is, obviously, when you're living in a pandemic, there's that holy cow aspect to start the day because there's new information. But the way staff has buckled down and seen this as an opportunity coming out of such trauma, I guess, is really incredible. So I reiterate what Mike has said about his staff, and the Kaposia staff has been in awe. I also know you don't battle Mike Fugazi for the microphone too.
Thank you, Terry.
That could be the quote of the night.
Yeah. You know, I think I speak on behalf of all our school board members that thank all staff on how hard they're working and what they're pulling off. It's just short of a miracle. Would everybody agree with that?
Yeah, Jeff, that's an understatement.
Pardon me? I don't.
It is.
I can't put it strongly enough. The wonderful job they're doing.
Okay, next up is early learning.
Hello, everybody. It's Connie Garling Squire, able to talk about our distance learning plans for early learning. Our voluntary pre-kindergarten program, the program we have for 4-year-olds, is part of the state expectations for inclusion in the distance learning plan. So what we did was expand that expectation. So all of our ECFE families, our preschool for 2-year-olds, our preschool for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds all have now distance learning plans that will support them. So we can go on to the next page, Lisa. In community preschool, one of the luxuries that we have in preschool is that we have both a teacher and an assistant in every one of our classrooms so that we can maintain that 1-to-10 ratio. What that means for us right now is that we get to actually be personal about our interaction. We have both our teachers and our assistants that are going to be doing outreach with our families and specifically with our kids. It's for the 2s and 3s and 4s, we need them to feel safe. We need them to continue some of the routines that they rely on every day. And we want to be that trusted adult that they recognize, that they know, that they can count on as this learning change is happening. And so for preschool, what we've done is our preschool teachers every day are sending via email or in a mailed pack. We only have a few families in preschool that don't have access to email. So we're going to be mailing a pack every week. But for like 98% of our families, they will get an email every day that will give them 8 to 10 different activities that are connected to our unit of study, which is the study that Lincoln Center is going to be using, for instance, is the ball study. So in general, people have some version of a sphere at home that they are going to be able to use to continue the standardized learning that we expect in early learning. We're going to depend a lot on our social stories, and conscious discipline practices, because in this environment, we want those routines and we want to feel that safety with familiar activities. And so every family will get a series of activities that they can do with home materials. When it's a sorting activity, it might be about socks that day. When it's a song and rhyme day, we'll actually link in the YouTube video so that people can use what's available online for preschool. So we're really excited about that. But mostly for us, it's about maintaining that personal part, as Chuck was saying about secondary building. It's maintaining that personal part in our relationships with our youngest kids that need all of their adults around them when things change. Lisa, you can go on to the next page too. And then in early childhood family education, we have about 150 families that come to classes every week. And so for every one of those families, they will receive an email and phone calls from their ECFE teacher and assistants that they are used to, with activities that they can do all week long. The other magic about ECFE is that we have parenting educators that are experts. And so we're also going to open office time so that parents can call or leave messages or send emails to get some parenting tips, to get some advice about why the 11-month-old isn't going to sleep at night and what else they could be doing. So remember, our goal in ECFE is to help our families not feel so alone, so that we have our whole team being able to continue that work. So there's our update about early learning.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, do we have anybody else? Did we lose Dave?
Thank you.
Yeah, turn my mic on. There's my microphone. Kelly, you want to take it away?
Kelly?
Are you ready?
Ready?
Okay. Good evening, members of the board and South St. Paul community. I'm Kelly Tetrick, Director of Special Services, and I am here this evening to give you an update on special education services, some of our services for homeless students, as well as our health services. Dr. Schmidt will give you an update on English learners as well. Lisa, if you want to go to the next slide. So I want to reiterate what everyone else has said. We have had some incredible learning happening in special education. Our staff really stepped up. I have seen some really creative plans, and I have something that I'm going to show you in the next slide that will really illustrate that. Special education is very complex when we're face-to-face. And when we're looking at a distance learning plan, it's becoming even more complex. But I will tell you, we've got creative staff and we're moving forward. We are moving forward with our specialized curriculum and instruction, which will continue. Students with disabilities are entitled to receive a free and appropriate public education, even on distance learning days, and it's a #1 priority. All of our instruction is driven by IEP goals and services, so that is the individual education plan for our students receiving special education. We will continue to support progress toward their academic goals, as well as their social and emotional goals and behavior goals. And all of our instruction will continue to be based on grade level standards. Special education services, you will see I have that listed there below. We are working closely in collaboration with building principals, with the Department of Learning, as Dr. Schmidt talked about, as well as Mr. Otaki and the other principals. So you will see how we are delivering some of that curriculum. What are some of those vehicles that we're using to deliver that curriculum? And you will see a variety of ages there, because special education is also delivering services to some focused learners. We start with birth all the way up through grade 12. So, for example, the Birth to 3 team is working on what are those routines that they can assist families with in the home when they typically do home visits. They're now going to be doing that virtually, and in some sense the same way as Connie was talking about with her early learning delivery of services. Lisa, if you want to go to the next. So here is an example of an individualized distance learning plan. And I don't know, Lisa, can you click on that link so that we can see that plan? There we go. This is just an example, and this is one of our teachers over at Lincoln Center. It's her son, Charlie. This is what Charlie's day will look like, and you will notice at the top there, we've got reading, math, and inquiry time, social skills, and related services, things such as speech services, OT services. So every day, Charlie will be able to, they will be able to link into this document, and they will be able to pull down a drop-down menu that will show exactly what are those things that Charlie's working on, what's the direct instruction he's receiving, and all of those services that would be delivered throughout the day. I don't know if you can see below that, Lisa, if you could scroll up on that plan a little bit. Some of the visuals, we usually do a daily calendar activity. All of those things that are familiar to the student are incorporated into his daily individualized plan.
Wow.
It's been very impressive to see what teachers are putting together and how they are putting these things together.
Wow. Very impressive.
And that's just one example. This is happening across the district in many, many areas of special education.
Is that all you got, Kelly?
All right, next one.
Thanks,
Hey.
Kelly.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, and maybe you'll get to this. How about support for the parents?
I'm sorry, what did you say, Patty?
How are we supporting the parents in this process, whether it be special needs kids or just general student population? Has there been discussion about that?
Supporting the parents with the technology piece?
Yeah, just in general, guiding and keeping them moving forward.
Nope, that's a really good question, because getting guidance on special education, one of the three important components for us right now is parent input. So
Yeah.
really focusing on how are we going to gain parent, how are we going to have communication, because that's a critical piece of delivering special ed services. So we're being really creative in how we are going to be communicating with our parents each day, and how we're going to get consent or how special ed will look differently next week when we move into distance learning.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, we're just going to play it by ear and see how it all falls into place or doesn't, and deal with it when it comes.
Right, and I will say case managers have really pretty close relationships with their parents already.
Okay.
So lots of good communication happens throughout the year.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Any other questions for Kelly?
Nope.
Thanks for your hard work, Kelly. Dave, who's up next?
This is
Next
Chad.
is Chad again.
And I'm ready to go with English learners. I also want to respond to Patty. The Kaposia team has developed Terry would have to name it for me, but I think it's called a distance learning hub, trying to build a one-stop shop for parents and families to get information about this, especially in the very beginning as we're trying to move from our traditional model to this distance learning model. So Kaposia has been intentional around that, building that parent learning hub, or that one-stop shop. The other thing is teachers across the system have been contacting parents and families, partly with them, but also to ask questions like, are you getting the information from the district? Do you have reliable internet access? Do you have devices to do learning with? So some of that's been going on, and I'm going to use that as my transition to the English learner, the planning that our English learner team has been doing to help support some of our most vulnerable learners for whom English isn't their first language. So our teachers and paraprofessionals and cultural liaisons have been reaching out to students and families. Part of it is the message that you heard, I think, Chuck describe. I see you, I know you, I care about you. So that relationship build, but also about what additional support and help might you need as we move into this distance learning model. Secondly, our English language teachers are planning lessons English language development lessons, and they'll deliver those through our online platforms of Seesaw at the elementary level and Schoology at the secondary level. Our English learner teachers are also developing resources and providing support to homeroom and general education teachers around how to help our English learner students access the social, emotional, and academic content that will be pushed out. And finally, we have 3 paraprofessionals in the English Learner Program, and those paraprofessionals are working actively to support students and families and will be available to support students. So whether it's through the kind of office hours that you heard one of our leaders describe earlier, or some other kind of formats that we'll be brainstorming and exploring this week, it's our intent that those paraprofessionals who have a fair amount of contact with our students will be available for students and families to contact for support.
Very good.
Thanks, Chad.
Any questions for Chad? Okay, Dave, who's next?
Kelly, you're up again with homelessness.
I think I'm up again. I'm going to speak a little bit to some of our families that are experiencing homelessness. Right now, we have approximately 14 families. We have reached out to each of those families via phone from my office in the last week. We reached out to all of them. Be assured that staff will be providing support for those students to participate in distance learning. And most often, we will probably have phone contact with those folks out there in those situations. We've also initiated meals for all of our homeless families. So we served 57 meals were delivered last week to those families. That's happening daily, Monday through Friday, and we are delivering those through some of our transportation company as well. And I want to give a shout out. I know we're going to hear from Nutrition Services, but our partners there have been phenomenal in helping with this and getting meals ready for our homeless families.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. Any questions for Kelly?
Thank you for doing that. I've been concerned about our homeless family, so that's good to hear. Good to hear.
And they're very grateful. They have been very fantastic to work with. So, been a very good thing.
Good.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Kelly?
No.
Kelly, you're up again with health screenings.
So I'm going to give you one more update on health screenings. Another group of heroes here are our district licensed school nurses. They have actually been monitoring this COVID virus since early February. They've been really looking at CDC recommendations, Minnesota Department of Health. They've really been on top of this and been monitoring this all along. Recently, on March 18th, we began screening all adults and children at Kaposia Education Center. And that was really due in part to our emergency school age care, which is taking place down at Kaposia. Just today, we started self-monitoring checks at the other building, and that process is in place as well in our other district buildings. So they're working very closely with their principals, very closely with communications as well, and been very active in this whole process.
Thank you.
So our question, can I have a question?
Sure.
So our buildings are open for that service?
Our buildings have been open and we've had staff in and out. And we have the childcare happening down at Kaposia. So yes, we've got screening in place. And
So
this, yep, go ahead.
So the students that come in for childcare are checked. We don't have
Correct.
kids. We don't have kids just coming in from that are not under childcare being checked, or do we?
Everyone's checked.
Anyone who comes in.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You will see on this next slide, I just gave some, this is just some information that's coming from the Department of Health. And we ask these screening questions. That's what guides some of the self-monitoring in the other buildings, but you can just see that information for you to read.
Okay, very good.
Kelly, I got a question.
Yeah.
When the children are screened, are they asking the children or are they asking the parents? How are they doing that?
You know, I think what's happening, they are actually asking the kids, but I don't know for sure, Wendy.
Can I comment on that?
Yep, go ahead.
I've been witness to it. So parents have to bring their kids in and they're present.
Right.
So it's a collaborative effort there. They're asking the adults too.
Sure, absolutely.
We are hand to hand when we have drop off and when we go to the front with the child. The adults in that case are not coming into the building. We're meeting them out in the front entryway.
Thank you, Terry. I know it's been mostly at your building. So thank you for chiming in there with the details.
Yeah, because my concern was if you're asking a young child, you know, age 5 through 7 or whatever, breath, they may not understand what you mean by that or the concern that they have. So that's why I wondered if the parents were coming too. Thank you.
Any other questions for Kelly? Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks,
Kelly.
Thank you.
Dr. Webb, who's up?
Good evening. This is Jean Zender, Director of Community Ed in South Suburban ABE. Good evening, board members and South St. Paul community members. Just taking a few minutes to talk about what's happening in our adult basic education program in regards to our distance learning too. So as my colleagues have echoed, my 6 teachers have been busy working and collaborating together too. So out of a sense of urgency, there's a lot of awesome things taking place as well too. So we are modeling after the K-12 system of the points that we've been asked to do for our distance learning. So our adult learners are getting messages from their teachers in a variety of ways, either phone calls and or daily messages or text messages. Their learning is continuing on. And if you remember in adult basic education, each student has a tailored plan in place too. So my teachers have now accessed a few favorite online options for our staff, for our students to continue their learning and some new ones. So they can take their program and custom make it just like they did in their packet here at school, but using those online platforms. We are also able to provide paper copies for any students who don't have mobile devices or that might be a block. So learning is continuing through ways as well as the rest of my colleagues have talked about, and that they are also getting feedback from their teachers at least 2 to 3 times per week to keep things moving forward in the adult basic ed world. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean. Any questions for Jean? Thanks for all your hard work, Jean.
Yes.
Next up.
Glenn Ritter with food service and emergency school meal delivery.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. All right. So thank you, school board and South St. Paul community for allowing me to be here and talk about the school meal programs. So we've been able to put together a nice program to feed kids. As you can see from these pictures, I got some awesome staff that have just jumped at the opportunity to continue feeding kids. So you've got some pictures of the people prepping and serving meals out of the buses and the maps around the community. So again, everybody's been doing a great job there. If you go to the next slide, you can see the both where every site where we're serving meals. So we're serving meals from 11 to 1, and we're and at all of the schools. They're right at kind of at the main entrances to the buildings to make it easy for people to come and pick up and even drive up and just get handed the meals. We're handing out both breakfast and lunch at the same time. So kids can get their lunch for the day and then breakfast for the next day. And then we do the same thing on the bus routes. Each route has 8 stops, both a northern route and a southern route around the city. And the meal participation and the number of kids that we've been able to feed have been great. So if you look at this slide, our first day we served about 866 total meals. That's breakfast and lunch. and those numbers grew every day. As you can see, on Friday we served almost 1,500 meals, and it's been just a great opportunity to connect with the community, provide some meals to families and kids. And yeah, the staff has just been, again, fantastic, and just jumped at the opportunity to help feed those kids and take care of them. And the bonds that they've built have just been great.
Awesome. Thanks, Glenn. Any questions for Glenn?
Expand further?
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you expect the numbers to keep growing as far as how many you're serving?
Yes, I definitely think so, especially as the weather starts to get nicer out. When you think about what the weather was like on Thursday with the rain, I was, just definitely surprised that we had, 180 people come out to the north bus route and 125 on the southern route. I mean, those are huge numbers, and the weather was not particularly nice that day. So I think as the weather gets nicer, we're going to see even more people participating.
Okay, thank you.
I guess, do you have any trouble getting supplies for packing up these lunches and transporting?
No, we haven't really had any issues with getting supplies. Most of our vendors have plenty, and they've been able to provide us with everything that we need. So we're in good shape right now for the supplies, but we'll see how things go as we go further. But the vendors our food vendors have been great about excuse me, sorry. Have been great about asking us what we need, making sure that they know what our menus are going to be, and so they can make sure that they've got the food supplies that we need.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Glenn?
I do. This is Linda.
Go ahead, Linda and Chris.
Oh, hi. So, Glenn, I'm a school board member with a 10-year-old boy. And at first, when this came out, I was like, "Oh, we're okay, buddy. We don't need to go across the street to the church and get the lunch." And but he was outside playing when the bus pulled up, and she called and said, "Do you need a lunch?" And he was like, "Well, of course I do. I'm 10 and I eat all day." And so he went and he came back with the 2 bags, and his eyes were big, and it's one of the highlights of his day. Today we were going to go to the bank during my lunch break, and he was like, we gotta wait till lunch comes, Mom. So I just want you to know that there are bonds, because as we're social distancing and really, being careful, the very quick conversation that he's having with the bus driver, how you doing? How's your day? Here you go. How many do you need? I mean, it's really filling him up. His soul as well as his belly. And I do have a comment and a question from him, and he absolutely fell in love with the cinnamon rolls and is wondering when they're going to come back on the menu, because he wants to be there first, front and center when they do.
Well, that's a great question. Yeah, we had plans to have that go back onto the menu on our regular school lunch or school breakfast menu starting next week. But with everything happening, we actually started them just this past Thursday. So that was maybe part of the reason why the numbers were so big on Friday, as they had gotten the cinnamon rolls for breakfast on Thursday. So we are going to be continuing to keep that on the menu.
I'll let him know.
Hey, Chris, you had a question for Glenn?
I just wanted to say congratulations and say I bet you weren't expecting to get menu requests tonight.
Yeah, thank you. It's this is
people around town have been talking about the meal distribution.
Oh, that's great to hear. We've heard some of that feedback from the Facebook page, and that's awesome. And again, my staff they've been fantastic. They just love that interaction with the students, and so when they're out with the bus and there's kids coming around that recognize the lunch ladies on the bus, then they get that interaction, and it's been great to see.
Thanks, Glenn. Any other questions for Glenn?
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Next up, Jean with emergency school age care.
Yes, so as part of the governor's plan, he had put a request in for us to be child care for our first responders. So we opened up our emergency school age care program as of last Wednesday. We have currently about 40 families registered. We're seeing about 25 to 30 students a day. We have, with the help of other district staff, so not only the school age care staff, some and some other support staff in the district, there's about 20 staff caring for these students. And I should have started by saying thank you to my whole entire team who helped put this together and are out doing this work rather quickly, the turnaround like everyone else had to do as well too. So I just want to make sure that I thank them. Transportation is provided as needed. We have a bus route, and currently we have about 17 students that ride to and from our location at Kaposia. We're fortunate enough to be working and having the district staff as well as Nurse Julie, who's our community ed nurse, on site each day. And the kids are, as we talked about too, and Terry mentioned too, that the kids and the staff are being screened prior to coming. Even those that are being transported by the bus, they are being screened prior to entering the bus. And so we're sitting at, we're doing that recommended 9 to 1. I think today my staff had reported that we had 3 staff to a group of like 4 or 5 students. So having lots of fun while practicing and helping the kids make sure that they're doing their social distancing, and washing their hands, just engaging. You know, it's a time for them to get away from everything. And we're in the business of having fun. So they're doing arts, crafts, gym, have a chance to be in the computers, and outdoor activities, obviously, as well, too. And again, thanks to our food service department and Glenn's crew, they are also taking advantage of breakfast, lunch, and a snack provided by the food service. Any questions?
No.
Okay, thanks, Jean. Thanks for your
Welcome.
work. Dr. Webb.
Yes, so we have just a number of district operations supporting behind the scenes. I'm going to speak on behalf of Building and Grounds. We have our Building and Ground staff has stepped up, just like our food service and our teachers. They are doing disinfecting work all over the district. They have a plan, they have maps, and they're getting that done top of the list day in and day out. We're also just enhancing our safety protocols. And today, for example, we had a number of staff returning, and we provided additional safety training for each of them. So just wanted to give a shout out to our Building and Ground staff as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
For Human Resources, Kathy, are you there?
Yes, I am. This is Kathy Miller, the Director of Human Resources. Good evening, everyone. So, as you have all kind of seen here, there's been a lot to ask of our staff. And as you have heard, they have really taken this as best they can and have responded really well, quite amazing, actually. So hats off to all of our staff for how they have handled a very difficult situation in a very short amount of time. And, you know, just to kind of put some context of how challenging this has been for staff, if you think about it, last week, Monday and Tuesday, we were closed as a school district, and we treated that those 2 days like an emergency closing. So that reporting was had a little different twist to it for staff. And then the state closed on Wednesday, ordered by the governor. And so then we had different reporting procedures for staff at that point too. And then come this week, we have different reporting procedures for staff. So it has been challenging to keep up with the communicating with staff and helping reassure them. But they have done a great job of being understanding of the challenges that we're all facing and trying to support as much as they can. So what we are doing here is some of our staff are reporting to work and doing their regular jobs or modifying jobs or different jobs that they were that they have been doing in the past. So you heard about food service and childcare and all of those kinds of things. So some people are doing things that they're not used to doing. Some people are working remotely if that's feasible for their position and working with teams and have been really receptive. And all of us have been learning a lot how to work together remotely. So that has been pretty amazing. And some folks are choosing to take time off if they have that available. And then we are working with individual staff members who have special circumstances to try to accommodate those needs as well. So overall, it's been challenging for all of us. But again, as you have heard throughout all of these reports, our staff have really responded and really doing the best they can in this very difficult situation.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions for Kathy?
If I could just add one more comment about HR. There's no office in the district that got more questions than HR in the last 5 days. So just a shout out to Kathy and her leadership.
Thank you, Kathy.
Of course.
All right, the one I've been waiting for, technology.
Okay, Bashir, Director of Technology. We were probably second to the Kathy's department in terms of number of questions and calls. So I just want to do a quick brief on what our department has been up to. First of all, you've heard already from Chad on the work that our digital learning team has been doing. We've implemented the district learning plan in conjunction with the learning department and the schools themselves. This team, I'm proud of the work that they've done, both in their leadership in helping to develop the flexible learning plan and extending that into the distant learning plan. They're quite busy working with teachers, making sure that the learning tools are available for them and that they know how to use them. Our teachers are being really well supported by this team. I'm really proud of the work that they're doing. Yes. Okay, I'm moving away from other people's microphones.
You're picking up on everybody's microphone.
I feel like I've been put in detention now, so I'm just gonna okay, I think we're in the clear here. So on the other side of our support organization, both in terms of infrastructure and our support for end users, our big effort right now is preparing for device pickup for those students who don't have adequate technology at home and weren't part of the take-home program. For example, starting tomorrow, we'll be sending home the 6th grade devices as people come to pick those up, and then other students for secondary and CLC who don't have devices at home will have that opportunity to bring a device home with them so that they can do their work effectively online. This will be happening then 2 days later at the elementary schools as well, and that's going to be an interesting task as well. We're busy getting those devices ready and packaged up. And the schools have done a great job in reaching out to families to see who needs something at home, so that we're ready to deliver and that we actually have enough devices to be able to meet the need. We've also been helping staff prepare for their remote work, making sure their workstations are working, their laptops for our teachers especially, and then also that they have the tools that they need ready to go. So we've been working with them quite a bit as well. And then the next part of it is actually designing what support looks like. We're about to shift from a model where about 95% of our support was delivered inside the walls of this school district to the exact opposite. All of our support almost, both for the supporters and the supportees, will be happening remotely from the school district. So a lot of design work, a lot of discoveries along the way, and some interesting problems to solve there, but we're well on the way to doing that. So at technology, we kind of feel like we're all in the middle of this, and that's a good place for us to be.
Yeah. Thank you. Any questions for Paul?
Yeah, I have a question. When I have issues with my laptop, the computer guy who works on my laptop has a software program that he has me sign into, and then he signs into, and then he works on my computer remotely. Is that kind of how you guys are going to function, or?
Yeah, and actually, that's quite often what we do inside the district as well. And that tool works for us in most cases while people are remote as well. We can connect to their computer, ask them permission to join in and to take control, and then we can quite often see what the issue is, install something that needs to be installed, work out the problem at that point. If nothing else, be able to see what's happening.
Sure.
It's often quite the benefit alone. So yeah, we have the tools in place to do that. We have a backup too in cases where for whatever reason we're not able to connect that way. We have another tool in our hip pocket that we can use.
Fabulous.
Thank you. Any comments, questions for Paul? Thanks, Paul. I can't imagine how busy you are.
Yep. Crazy and it's fun at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Webb.
Susan, are you there?
I am here. Yes, I am. So,
Joey.
all right. So thank you so much, school board and community. I'm Susan Brott, Director of Communications. I'm the one that's been pushing out all those emails to everybody. So we thought that we would end with communications just as a means to excuse me, my text messages are popping up on my screen, as a means to sort of help people understand again where we are archiving so much of the information that we've heard today. So we do have a special website set up, ssPPS.org/coronavirus. There we are constantly, just as everybody else has been talking about how we've kind of been learning, building the plane while we're in the air kind of thing. It has been that way for us too in communications with Samantha Chin and myself, and we are definitely trying to make sure that we're providing as much information as we can for families and for staff. So we started the website and we kind of blew it up on Friday and started over again. So we know that we're constantly needing information. So just a reminder that any of the updates that get pushed out, and we are pushing out updates sometimes by voicemail, most often email and text message, or utilizing social media as well to help push out those messages. On the website itself, we have all of those messages archived. We also have emergency services links. We just added the materials pickup schedule that Paul was just talking about for the different buildings. And Lisa, if you could just click on where it says resources, I just want to be able to show the robust amount of resources that we have for the it's right at the bottom. Sorry about that.
Right, it's like
if you just hit at the ssPPS.org coronavirus, and then you can hit resources too. Then we can show that as well. So on the left-hand side, if you scroll to the bottom there, Lisa, please, you will see that we have a section of resources, and we have constantly been building this up. So, we got a lot of questions from families saying, okay, my kid has been home for spring break, and now we're home for another week, and now we're home for another week. And so what can we be doing? People are going stir crazy. So we have a ton of resources for at-home learning. Some of them I'm finding super cool, and I did a couple on the weekend as myself, because you can do like webinars with a bunch of famous musicians, learning doodles with the guy who wrote those pigeon books. Just lots of free stuff that people are doing right now. We also have a lot of mental health resources. David Sumkowski, our health and safety consultant, provided some additional things under health in terms of cleaning. We've all known about washing our hands and covering your cough and things like that, but just some additional things to think about. Like I wasn't thinking about, I should really be washing my coat more often, or, different things like that he's been able to provide, which has been really helpful. And then we've got a section building for teachers and staff, which basically complements a lot of what Paul's digital learning team is already doing. So just wanted to make sure that people know that we are putting lots of resources there, and we're getting more and more resources every day. So thank you, Lisa. We can go back to the presentation. And then we are doing a lot on social media, obviously, as well. We're trying not to be the question and answer place for everybody, but some of the questions we are able to answer pretty quickly on social media, you know, because it's kind of anytime, anywhere, or at least directing them to people. And so we've had a couple of situations over the last couple of days when later at night and somebody asked a question, I was at least able to say, you know, we can't answer that, but I've forwarded it to the principal and the principal will be calling you in the morning or something like that. So that's been a nice way to just trying to make sure that we have that for people. And then if you want to go on to the next page, Lisa. I wanted to kind of end today because it's, you know, we could all use a little bit of joy at the end of this, right? So we're having a lot of our teachers and staff, just some of that stuff that everybody's been talking about in terms of preparing for distance learning, but so many of our teachers have also this week, while there's no direct instruction going on, are finding creative ways to connect. And so I just wanted to show you a couple of videos that some of our staff are doing, if you'll indulge me for just a minute. So this first one there, that's Megan Erickson. She teaches at Kaposia. And she does read-alouds every other day. So she takes a book and she's reading to kids in her classroom. And so just an example of some, and you know, we'll link these in there as well. But so she was reading a book and every other day they get that through Seesaw. And so while it's not direct instruction, it's still that connection with her kids that she's been doing and been getting great feedback. If you go to the next slide, and hopefully these videos will work, Lisa. This one was one of the first ones that came our way. It was Deanna Roaring. She's in the SUN program over at Lincoln Center, and Kelly actually shared this. But it was just, she was just missing her kiddos. And so one day she sent a video. You see her on the left. So you'll see a little bit, if we can hopefully hear it. I'd have to turn up the volume a little bit, but she's just saying how much she misses her kids. And it's really amazing, and it's really touching and heartwarming. Sorry that the audio doesn't seem to be working quite as well. But on the right side then is one of her students there is, and her parents gave us permission, his parents gave us permission, but he's a nonverbal student. And when the iPad is there, and Deanna's message is being there, and you see him just reacting so sweetly to that connection, which shows you how much of a connection Deanna has with her kids, and how the parent, and according to the parent, he wanted to watch that video again so many times, which was fun. And then the last video that I have, which is just before this slide here, is Jessica Splitzoser is doing a joke of the day. So in case you need to have a good dad joke, she's got some good little jokes that first graders would love. And she's doing that for her students. So just showing how our teachers are making sure that they're still doing those connections with the kids. And it's really, when I talk to these teachers, when they sent them to us, and we've got many more that we're collecting, but the teachers said they needed to do it because they missed the kids so much. And so it just is a testament to how strong, yeah, she cracked herself up with the joke. It's a testament to how strong our staff are working, and it's just really fun. So when you get a chance, we'll make sure that you have access to that presentation and you can watch those videos. But I wanted to at least say that we're all trying to navigate whatever this new normal is, and our staff are really stepping up. And I wanted just to give a couple quick shout outs in terms of communication. Samantha Chin has been unbelievable, and when I will send her something, and I'll write something and she's doing it and she's putting it up, and we're tracking social media all night long. And when you have insomnia, it's a good thing to check out. And then but also a shout out to our cultural liaisons, because they have really, in addition to just checking for the translations that we're sending out, a number of them are reaching out individually with the messages and saying, and they're contacting me and saying, make sure I understand this so that I can then explain it to families. And so all of our staff are just going above and beyond, and I'm really proud of everybody.
Thank you, Susan. Any questions or comments for Susan?
Thank you, Susan. We're going to miss you.
Any other comments? Okay. Thank you, Susan. Is there anything else, Dr. Webb?
So just to recap, here's our second to last slide. Just the governor's direction was distance learning and equitable distance learning, school age care, and through all that, our community has asked for increased communication. So that's the governor's request. We want to really exceed that and continue to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And we just don't know tomorrow or next week. It'd be the next announcement from the governor. So we continue to stay tuned and support all that we can do for our community. The last slide, as we go there, we just want to open it up for any board member questions tonight.
I have one. Am I okay to go ahead?
Yep.
Okay. What is our psychologist and counselors in the midst of this? I'm a bit concerned. I know they know kids that are challenged, anxiety and depression and all that sort of things. Do they have a specific curriculum they're following in this situation?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example of Mitch Paulson at the secondary building. He's on one of our 9 school counselors. So as a school district, we have not only the 9 school counselors, but we have 5 mental health specialists that come out of the Dakota County grant to serve our students in our community. So they have their requirements of engagement too with just connects and support during this entire time for the caseload of students. So they have waivers on many of the HIPAA laws that we typically have to follow. So that's due to this emergency national crisis. So now it allows for us to do face-to-face video conferencing and counseling support for all kids.
So I can add. This is Chad. The principals can provide some additional context and background information about what their counselors are doing. Patty, one part of your question was, do they have a specific curriculum that they're following? And so our counselors help deliver some of our social emotional learning curriculum. And at the elementary schools and the middle schools, they are doing classroom lessons. The timeline's a little bit different between elementary and secondary, but they're pushing into classrooms and providing lessons for students around some of the big ideas of social emotional learning and some strategies that students can use. As we move into this distance learning model, we are looking for our counselors to continue to provide that kind of support and those kinds of lessons for students. So Dave was talking about kind of an individual or potentially small group, and I'm commenting on some of the large group stuff that they might do to provide lessons for students. And I would want to open it up for Mike, Terry, and Chuck to add any additional commentary about the work their counselors are doing.
Wow. Yeah, hi, this is Chuck. Just wanted to let you know that our counselors have actually started to reach out to families already of the kids that they see on a pretty regular basis to check in with them to see how they're doing. They are all crucial as we start to go through the distance learning. If a student hasn't logged in 2 days in a row, we are setting up a system in which the counselor gets that information and they reach out to the family too. So our counselors are going to be heavily involved in what is going on. They've already been involved in reaching out to families to see how everything is going, but become even more heavily involved as we go into the distance learning.
Thanks.
So this is Terry too, and in the same sense that they have a caseload of kids that they have seen throughout the year, and that's who they're going to be reaching out towards. And again, as Chad had alluded to, they're going to offer online, digital, weekly social emotional learning lessons through step curriculum that they've been delivering the whole year. So they're busy recording themselves, reading social stories, and delivering these lessons to these past few days.
And this is Mike tagging in. I would agree that Lincoln Center has a similar model. So the counselors and student support specialists have already been in and identified caseloads that they've been calling individually and will schedule with, in addition to providing at least one SEL lesson a week for each grade level team to use with their kids. If you go back, I know it was like 60 or 70 slides ago, referencing the SEL piece there.
Wow. All right.
So we're going to drop down off of the PowerPoint, and we're going to go back to our board book. And highlight, get us back on our agenda. So we want to give you the COVID coronavirus update. Just proud of our staff, proud of our leaders, proud of all of our teachers in the shift to digital learning, and especially a shout out to food service and our child care that continue to make the days during these first difficult weeks while our teachers are planning, and make the days of a lot of our medical personnel, children, and we want to give them a shout out tonight.
All right. Well, there's still people online. I'd like to give everybody a chance to express their thanks to them if they want to. I mean, there's no pressure or anything, but if you want to, please express your thanks to the staff. If you want to.
Yes, I would like to. It's awesome. The word of the year. Really, I'm just stunned by the amount that has been accomplished in the last week, 2 weeks. And to hear you say that the teachers and everybody just has taken it on as a challenge and something that needs to be done for the kids. It's just, the whole thing is just so impressive. I feel like we've just had to reinvent, the entire education process, and everybody just said, all right, let's do it. And, the cherry on the top is to know that if the kids are not engaging in all of this, that we're reaching out to them and contacting them to find out why and see what we can do. I'm so impressed with the whole thing. I just can't say thank you enough.
Thanks, Chris. Anybody else?
Yeah, Jeff. I'd like to specifically thank the people who are working the buses and delivering the lunches with so much joy and compassion. They're really doing a wonderful job, and that's one of my priorities. So thank you to those people.
I agree. Anybody else?
Yeah, I've got something. Wendy, you go ahead.
Wendy first, then Patty.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I honestly don't know even where to start, when to give thanks. The staff, the support staff, like Bill says, the bus drivers, the lunch ladies, the office staff, technology. Since I am not very tech savvy, my thrill for the technology department, helping the staff to get all these programs set up, the administration, I can only imagine what they're going through. And having not only to deal with school issues, dealing with their own personal families, with the fear of possibly contracting this virus is on everybody's mind at all the time. So I just want to thank them from the truly bottom of my heart for what they're doing for our kids, for our community, for their own families, keeping everybody safe. So thank you so much for everything you're doing.
I agree. Patty?
Yeah, well, the news from this end is that I'm not surprised. I've always known we've had an excellent staff, and I just think it's amazing and extraordinary, the level of rallying to the cause in every corner of the school district. And thank you doesn't seem to be a big enough word. So just know that I fully support what you're working on. As a former teacher, I can only imagine the adjustment that you're going through right now. I mean, the new technology and learning to teach in a new way and format can be exciting. I mean, because you love teaching. Of course, you would find it somewhat exciting, but I'm sure it's stressful. And so, keep on keeping on. You have our full support and you have our full respect. So thank you.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, absolutely agree with the respect and support. I just, also a former teacher and school person, I just can't imagine how it all happened, being ripped away and then saying, but you still have to be the thinkers. You still have to be the ones to keep us together, and you have. I live next door to one of the recess supervisors from Kaposia, and her heart is broken. Her heart is broken that she doesn't get to say, you were such a great listener, or I've seen you grow. I mean, as we were having this discussion over our hedge. And I see how broken-hearted people are, because they have still more to say to kids. and to families. And so I'm really excited that we're going to get this chance, that they're going to be able to say what they've wanted to say. And I know it's a lot of work. I'm just amazed that you were able to pull it all together. I think about Israel's fourth grade teacher who every day is sending another resource like, hey, I know you're waiting for distance learning to come, but check this out, practice this. Just being really respectful about kids being excited for this. So I just appreciate you all. Yeah, kudos to you.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, now we get to the regular business portion of our meeting. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent items on tonight's agenda, which include financial claims, bills payable, and staffing as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Any discussion? Lisa, would you take the roll?
Inspector Walker.
Lisa?
Hang on, she's coming.
Okay.
Okay, Inspector Walker. Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, Inspector Lalibert,
Yes.
Inspector Arndt,
Yes.
Inspector Dalton,
Yes.
Inspector Diaz,
Yes.
Inspector Bergland.
I can't hear you. You're echoing too much.
Yeah, I'm not hearing very clearly either.
Inspector Bergland, and Inspector McClellan.
Yes.
7 years.
Motion carries. Next is the policy section of our agenda. We have 24 policies for their second reading. As a reminder, these policies can be found on our website. One and only business item for this evening is the South St. Paul School Board to approve conducting their school board meetings by teleconference or other electronic means until further notice due to the declared health pandemic and declared state of emergency and pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Dr. Webb?
Yeah, this is planning ahead, looking ahead, making sure that if we have more of these meetings, we just have board approval to continue this process. And I just want to give a shout out to board members and Lisa Brandecker and our cable company and all Bashir and being able to stream this meeting to our own staff tonight. Just we're all learning and this teases us up to the future.
Thank you. Lisa, will you take the roll?
Inspector Bergland.
Yes.
Inspector Walker. Inspector Walker. Inspector.
Your connection is really bad, Lisa.
Try and walk into the room there and see.
She's getting excited with tension too.
Inspector Walker.
Can't hear you at all.
Chris. We hear you guys.
I am. Sorry if that was my name. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Inspector Lalibert.
Yes.
Are you hearing me?
Inspector Arndt.
Yes.
Inspector Felton.
Yes.
Inspector Diaz.
Yes.
Inspector McClellan.
Yes.
That's 7 yeas.
Motion carries. That's it for the business item this evening, so we'll move on to reports and informational items from board members. We'll start with
Got it.
You're up, Wendy.
Oh, just following along everything that's been putting out. A huge thank you to Susan Brott, our communications department specialist, for all the things that is getting sent out to our families. I noticed on Facebook yesterday, people were asking others to take some sidewalk chalk and go out in your front driveway or on your sidewalk and put some notes of encouragement and happiness and safe messages. I went outside yesterday and drew on my sidewalk, wrote a couple of messages, but unfortunately the snow had to come and wipe it all away. But I just want to thank our community, our students, our staff for supporting everything that's going on. And I asked myself, what will we be thinking, hopefully within several months of this virus pandemic? What have we learned? And what can we do to support each other and move on from this type of sad events that is happening? So everybody take care, be safe, and go Packers.
Thank you, Wendy. Bill?
I want to give a special shout out to Chad Schmidt for the job he's done during this pandemic. And I want to let him know that he has support, my support personally, as well as a lot of the faculty members. So great job, Chad.
Thank you, Bill. Nikki?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Chris?
Just to re-emphasize everything that I had said earlier, I got the message across that I'm really proud of everything that's been accomplished by our district employees. It's just been a phenomenal couple of weeks to see what they've pulled off, and I just want to make sure that they understand how much I appreciate and how much our entire city appreciates everything that they've done.
Thank you, Chris. Patty?
Well, just to echo what Wendy said, what everybody else said, this school district and this entire community are in my thoughts and prayers. I especially appreciate Dave's, Dr. Webb's navigating this and leading. He's our fearless leader, and we are most blessed and fortunate that he's at the helm. So thank you, Dave, and thank you everybody who's working through this. We are going to get through this together. So thanks.
Thank you, Patty. Linda?
Thanks, Patty.
Yeah, exactly what's been said. Thanks to everybody. And we'll see what happens from here. And I'm excited for distance learning.
Thank you, Linda. I have just a little bit of personal news. I've been to the doctor, and there's a strong possibility that I do have the virus. I wasn't able to be tested because there aren't enough tests. So just to let everybody know that I will be staying home for at least 14 days. We don't have a supplemental agenda for this evening, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
So moved.
Any discussion? Lisa, will you please call the roll?
Inspector Diaz.
Yes.
Inspector Bjorklund.
Yes.
Inspector Walker. Inspector Lalaberty.
Yes.
Yes.
Inspector Arend.
Yes.
Inspector Felton.
Yes.
Inspector McClellan.
Yes.
That's 7 yeas.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Dave.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.